All right. Uh, Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? So, we are going live here on several platforms all at once. This is Jayaprakash. If you can hear me, just type yes in the chat box. And in the meantime, uh, let me set up a few things. All right. Great. So, for those of you who are joining me for the very first time, this is actually day 4 of the live session, which we have been doing for quite some time. Actually, we have already done 3 more sessions that started with the basics of AutoCAD, and then we discussed about annotation tools, blocks, layers, and things like that. So this is part 4 of a 4-part series. And in this session, we'll be talking about printing, plotting, setting the proper scale, and getting the proper output from our drawing. So this is day 4 of the 4-day live cohort that we started way back, about a month back, we started this. Now, uh, this is also a new setup that I'm trying. So I have sent the invitations to very few people actually. And in fact, this session was announced just 15 minutes back. So not many people are joining. So if you are joining, consider yourself lucky because, yeah, as you can see, the crowd here, I try to just keep it as small as we possibly can. Because this is the first time we are testing this setup. So probably I may end up making some mistakes. Okay, so with that being said, welcome again, everyone whoever is. I mean, if you are joining me from YouTube, LinkedIn, or directly from SourceCAD website, once again, good morning, good evening, and let's get started. Let's see what we have in the agenda. So the topic that I mentioned, of course, is printing and plotting. So since this is about printing and plotting, I'm assuming that you know the basics of AutoCAD, and I will be starting right from there, just the printing tools. If you are completely new to AutoCAD, I'd highly recommend that you take the AutoCAD Essentials course, which is, by the way, completely free, available on SourceCAD. And yeah, and from there, this is the next step. All right, so now, the questions. This session has all the questions here in the chat box area. So far, there is no direct way for me to kind of invite you to ask your questions in this kind of live mode. I'm figuring that thing out maybe in the next up session or maybe in some upcoming sessions. I'll have that, but definitely you can ask your questions in the chat box and I'll be answering it. So let's see, who do we have here so far. We have Amin Qureshi, we have Sabi, Lee Webb, Vinny, Saiful, and Salih. So thank you so much for joining. And what about others? So far we have 35 participants joining us from different streaming platforms. So yeah, just type hi or just type your name here in the chat box. And yes, feel free to share your questions. I will take those questions at the end. So first, we'll start with the session. We'll talk about the actual topic, and then gradually we'll take up the questions. Hello, everyone. Hello. Okay, great. So I am getting the questions now. So uh, hold the questions for now. As I mentioned, I'll be taking all these questions in the end. Okay, so let's dive in. And I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Here we are. All right, so if you can see my screen, just type yes. Okay. All right. Uh, One more thing I want to point out here. There is a slight latency of about 5 seconds. So what I'm saying and your questions. So, I mean, you will find this thing. I mean, because we are streaming on several different platforms, so there will be a little bit of latency, but that should not be a problem, considering you are typing your questions in the chat box, and I'll be taking these questions. Okay, so let's start with the drawing here. And as I mentioned, the agenda for this session is printing and plotting. So I am assuming that you know the basics of AutoCAD, and I'll be starting directly with the printing and plotting tools. So I'll open a drawing here, this one, just a sample drawing. And let's directly jump into printing this drawing and how we'll just print it with the proper settings. Now, before I do that, I just want to check the units. So I'm going to type UN and press enter, and that's going to show me the units. So right now I'm using architectural format for this, precision quarter inch, and the unit, actual unit is this thing, which is inch. Okay, so with that being said, the unit is inch. Now let's go to the print option. So you can go to print option from here on the quick access toolbar. You can click on print. You can go to application button. You can select print and then plot. You can use Control P, or you can type PLOT command, plot. Any of these options are just fine. In this case, let's start with this one, this quick access toolbar. I use this one frequently. So yeah, here we go. And yes, I'll be asking several questions in the midst of this session as well, but I just want to quickly jump on this topic before I ask more questions. So that's why we are here. So now this is how the print window looks like. Now, by the time this session ends, everything that you see here in this print window will be very much clear to you, what it means, how to use them, including setting the proper scale of the drawing. So I'd really recommend that if you want to have a proper understanding of printing and plotting tools, setting their scale, working with layouts, this is the right session for you, and you should stick to the end of this entire session. Okay. Now this is the drawing that I want to print. And based on your local standards, you might be using NC paper size or maybe ISO paper size. It just doesn't matter which paper standard you're using. I'll be explaining it using mostly NC, but if you want, I can include ISO as well. So the first setting here is printer or plotter. We'll get to this thing here, page setup, in a moment, but first let's just go to printer and plotter. Now, there are two kinds of printers here. The first is your operating system printer, which is, well, all these printers. And then we have AutoCAD printers, these printers. So if you look closely, they just have different kind of icons. So this icon is for operating system printer, and this is for AutoCAD printer. It looks like a plotter actually. When you select a printer, AutoCAD will show papers that are compatible with that printer. So if I select, let's say this one, Brother DCP T820DW printer, now I have this list of papers. So these are only the papers that this printer supports. But if I change it to something else, maybe like DWC to PDF, which is, by the way, a virtual printer, it's not a physical printer connected to my PC, rather it's just a virtual printer that's going to plot my drawing into PDF. So in this case, the list is really very exhaustive. Almost all the paper sizes are available because this printer supports all these papers. Okay, so I'll just keep this one selected, DWG to PDF, because I want to print my drawing in PDF. And then in the paper size, I will select NCA. Now, there are two NC papers. One is landscape, one is portrait. Then NCB, again, two landscape, portrait, and so on. If you want ISO, then we have ISO papers here. In NC and ISO, we have a full bleed version and a normal version. So full bleed version is essentially a paper without any margins. So, I mean, it's just going to print borderless if, of course, your printer supports it. But we do want borders, so I'll just select NCA 11 by 8.5, the normal printer. Now, let's go to the next thing. So we have set the printer, we've set the paper size. Next is plot area, the most important thing. What do you want to plot? Well, right here, the most flexible option is window. Now, you can select window, of course, or you can select any of these options. Maybe let's just start with window just to show you what it is. And if this button shows up, just click. and make a window. If it doesn't, then just after selecting window, it should show this kind of interface where you can just make a box and everything inside the box will plot. Now, there are other options here, like display. If you select display, it's going to just print everything that is on display. Extends is something else, limit is something. We'll get to that, what these two things are. But for now, let's just select window, and then one by one, we'll look at other options. Then we have center the plot. By default, it's not checked, but I'd recommend that you just keep it checked, because if you check it, then your prints, they're going to get centered on your paper. So it will basically center it and then plot your drawing. And here we have fit to paper. Now, this is something that I'd recommend you check only for model space. In layout, again, we'll talk about layout and model in this session. But for now, if we are printing or drawing from here, which is called model space, just keep this one checked. If you are printing from layout, we'll keep it unchecked and we'll see what difference it makes. For now, these two are checked. Okay, so without overwhelming you, that's all I think we should do for now. And in the next step, we'll look at these options. So with that, if I click OK, and if I select desktop, I'll just select whatever this is, name is, and then save. All right, here is the final print. This is what we're going to get in PDF. So a simple print. Now, let's look at more options. Once again, I'll go to print, DWG to PDF, NCA, window, center the plot, fit to paper, all these things are checked. Now, let's look at these options. And before that, maybe let's look at the options here as well. Well, the first option here was display. If you select display, everything that is displayed will plot, but there will be a difference. And without printing, I'll now click on preview just to show you how it looks like. So click, and this is what it's going to look like. So for AutoCAD, this is what AutoCAD is seeing right now. So according to AutoCAD, there is a lot of room here at the top, left, right, and at the bottom, which of course we don't want. And you can get rid of all that extra room just by selecting the window option and making a window. Or you can also select extends. Extends will essentially fit your drawing in the current area, and then it will print it. So the drawing will look like this. As you can see, it now fits nicely in this sheet of paper. It just removed all the white space. So extends is really going to work well for this drawing. But what if we have something like this? So we have part of this drawing here, and let's for a moment assume that we also have something maybe here. Now, in this case, if you select extends, AutoCAD will include this entire box, this thing. So this may not look good, right? So let's go to print, and I'll select extends and preview, and this is what we're going to see. So everything it's just including it. So in this case, again, windows will make more sense if you want to hide this particular window. So select window, make a box, and even if the window is in your drawing, it won't plot. So window is kind of more flexible when you are printing from model space. And then we have limits. Now, limits is rather a tricky thing here, but let me show you what that is using a new drawing. So limits is essentially this. If I type limits, AutoCAD will prompt me with this message, specify the lower left corner. Okay, I'll leave it at 0, 0, enter. And now the upper right corner is 12 by 9. So what does it mean? If I make a rectangle that starts from 0, comma 0, and the top corner is 12 by 9, then everything inside this box will plot. So if I have a drawing that kind of looks like this, so this part will plot and this part of the circle will not plot if I select limits. That's what limit is. So in this drawing, if this entire thing is within that 12 by 5, 12 by 9 limits, it's going to plot, else it won't. So limit is the least flexible option that I recommend you should avoid. So if you're printing from layout, model space, go with Windows. So Windows option, select it, make a box, and you're done. Okay, so this part, the left part of the printing window is done, except for this thing, page setup, which we'll get to in a moment. Now let's go to this part on the right side. Okay, Once again, I'm actually I have so many questions in the in the comment box. I will take all these questions later in the end of this session. For now, keep posting your questions. If you have any, you can just type it here, and I'll take those questions and I'll answer all these questions. Every single question, I'll try and answer it. All right. Now, the plot style table. Okay. So there are several plot style tables here, and you can create your own plot style as well. In fact, in our AutoCAD comprehensive course, AutoCAD 2022 for beginners, I have a dedicated section related to this particular thing, making our plot styles. And in fact, we also have a printing and plotting course where I have explained it in detail. So it's a kind of an advanced concept, which I won't go into detail, but I'll just show you what these things will do. So essentially, if you select none or acad.ctb, your drawing will plot in color. Now, we have a prompt here. Do you want to assign this plot style to layouts? Right now, it's assigning it to model, but do you want to do the same for layouts? For now, I'll select no. But it doesn't matter if you select yes or no, the model will plot exactly as per the plot style that you've assigned here. Okay, so we have assigned acad.ctv. Let's see how it looks. Well, no change, right? Just the color drawing that we were expecting. Let's close it. And now I'll change it to, well, Dwave virtual pen fill patterns. I'm going to ignore these two because they are not going to make much difference. Fill pattern, as the name suggests, if you have pattern, it's going to fill it with solid. So we'll ignore that. And then grayscale and monochrome. These two are things that we'll just consider here. So grayscale and monochrome, essentially they are black and white plots. So if you want to print your drawing in black and white, just select grayscale or monochrome. But there is a difference. If you select grayscale, AutoCAD will plot your drawing with transparency like this. In this case, if you look at the drawing here, this area is dark, this area is relatively less darker. And why is that happening? Well, if you look at the original drawing, it's essentially because of the color. So this color is close to yellow, again, light color. This one is dark, so this one is dark. So any dark color will look darker, and light colors like yellow, green, they're going to look very light. That's what this grayscale is. But if you select monochrome, it's going to ignore color transparency completely. And the drawing will look like this, complete black and white. So now looking at this drawing, you simply cannot tell which color is which one is darker color, which one is, well, lighter color. I usually like my drawings in this kind of black and white mode, not in grayscale, but rather in monochrome. So if you want it, well, you can select monochrome. Then we have screening. Now, if I select a screening of 100%, essentially there won't be a difference at all. It's going to print your drawing exactly the way it is, either acad.ctv or none plot styles. But if I now change the screening value to, let's say, 50%, 25, 75, then gradually the sorry, the transparency of my drawing will increase. Okay, let me show you. With a screening of 50%, the drawing will look like this. It's as if this has been washed out. So why do we have these options? Well, consider a situation where you want to plot your drawing on actual paper, but you don't want to spend a lot of ink. Actually, this option is especially helpful for plotters. Plotters are really big printers. When you want to print your drawing, it's just going to consume paper and ink. Ink happens to be very expensive. So if you only want to plot your drawing just for testing it, and you don't want to really plot it with, complete dark colors, then you can select a screening value that will just lighten your drawing and it will preserve ink. So that's just an option for preserving ink. In this case, well, we are not going to select this, and maybe let's just leave it at monochrome. Let's just print our drawing in black and white. Okay, now the plot options. And if you are wondering why I skipped this, well, that's because of it's essentially related to 3D options. So these things are actually 3D visual styles. We might do a session very soon in AutoCAD 3D. So when we talk about that, I'll consider including these options in AutoCAD 3D. And by the way, do let me know here in the comment area which session you want me to do next. If it's AutoCAD, Revit, Civil 3D, whatever software, and in the software, also mention the topic. What do you want me to cover and our authors to cover? So if it's about AutoCAD, SolidWorks, or Fusion 360, I'll be covering it. If it's about anything else, then our authors will cover it. So do let me know in the comment area. Okay, now going back to this, we'll talk about this, and maybe let's just look at this also. This is a quality preset. Um, this is essentially, again, quality. Name suggests what it is, right? So normal quality is going to just plot your drawing in 100 dpi or dots per inch. If you select a lower quality preset, it's just going to print your drawing with lower dpi value. The quality will be lower, ink consumption will be lower. With higher quality, the dpi value will be higher, ink consumption will be higher, but the results, obviously, they're going to look much better. So that's just the quality. I'll leave it at normal. Okay. Now, these options are quite important. So let's look at these options. Well, the first is plot in background. If you check this option, AutoCAD will close this window after you click OK, and then you can start working on your drawing. And it will print your drawing in the background. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's going on with this print in background? It just takes seconds to print. Well, it takes seconds to print this drawing, but if your drawing is really big, if it contains several layouts and several details, then in that case, it just takes more than a few seconds. So in that case, plot in background is a good option to hide this window when you want to work on your drawing. I actually saw a question related to line weights and transparency. So if, no, yeah, so this is actually answering that question. So if you want to plot line weights, if your drawing has line weight, thickness, essentially, that you've assigned, and you want to plot it, keep it checked. If you don't, well, uncheck it. Same goes with the transparency option. Check this transparency option if your drawing has transparency and you want to plot it. Maybe I'll show you an example of both of these things as well. So let's look at these options, and then I'll go back to these two options and I'll show you what difference does it make. Now, plot with plot styles. Well, this is the plot style. If you uncheck this option, then even if I've selected monochrome, AutoCAD won't just plot your drawing with monochrome. It's just going to select none or the acad.ctb option. So just check this. And even if you don't, when you change it, AutoCAD automatically checks this option. These two options are related to layout, so that's why they're hidden. But again, we'll talk about these options very soon, just in a minute. Now, plot stamp. Well, plot stamp is, I would say, an outdated thing. But if you want to add extra information in a drawing, you can check it, click the stamp icon, and then check the information that you want to add to your drawing. For example, the paper size, the device name, plot scale, login name, date, time, layout, and all these things. And if you want even more values, you can just add it using add and edit option. So you can just define any value and add it here. Of course, we don't want the plot stamp thing, so I'll just uncheck it and then save changes to layout. Essentially, if you have made all these changes, you would definitely want to save it, right? And if you want to check this, it will save all these changes so that you don't have to do it. And obviously, it will save it in the layout. Okay, then we have the portrait and landscape, self-explanatory thing. It won't make a difference if you select the portrait or landscape from the paper option. So you can do that from here or here. And upside down is not going to make a difference on a white sheet of paper. It just, you can just flip the paper and that's upside down. So it doesn't matter in that case. But if you have branding at the top of the paper or on left or right of the paper, then maybe it will make a difference. So you have to just be mindful in that case. Else, it's not a very important thing. Okay, so with these settings, if I now click preview, well, almost similar results because these are the only two things that we checked that will make a difference, and we still need to see what these things are. So let me just click OK, print our drawing once again, and maybe I'll just call it BW, black and white, and save it. And this is how the drawing is going to look like. Complete black and white PDF file. Okay. So far, is it clear? Everyone, are you getting this thing? What we are discussing here? Of course, you can just tell me in the chat box. Okay, great. All right, so let's move to the next one. Now, printing and plotting with transparency and line weight that I mentioned, right? So I'm going to just zoom into this area and maybe I'll apply line weight to some of these objects here. All right, so I've just selected some lines here. And here is the line weight option. In the property panel, we have the line weight. So I'll just go to 0.5 mm. All right. And even after applying the line weight, it's not showing up. And that's very common. If that happens, then that's only because of the line weight display option, which is not checked. Now, that line weight display option is this. In fact, I have so many options checked here that I think I need to uncheck several of these options. So coordinates, model space, grid. Okay, grid, I'll just keep it checked. Infer constraints. Okay, just a minute. Okay. I think that's sufficient. Okay, and done. Yeah, that's much more manageable list. Okay. All right, and all right. That's better. Okay, here we are. Yeah. So I've deactivated most of the options that I don't need. Now here we go. Okay. So the screen blurring thing, again, this is actually happening most likely because of this streaming difference. But let me share another link here. This is actually YouTube link. You can directly go to this YouTube link to watch the stream on YouTube if it looks blurred on the website. All right, now, as this line weight is not showing up, it's simply because of this line weight display option. You can just click on this, just toggle it on, and the line weight will show up. The same is with transparency. So let's apply transparency now. We have applied line weight. I just missed this one, so maybe I'll just apply it here. Okay. I've applied the line weight and checked this option, line weight display. By the way, if it is not showing up, go to this three dash line and activate line weight, and then it's going to show up. Yeah. Now, I'll just select these options here. All right. And I'll apply the transparency, which is right here. So maybe a transparency of 60. And here we are. So the transparency is also clearly visible. You can actually compare it with this object, which I missed. So yeah, that's a 60 transparency. Maybe I'll just apply it here again. All right. And if you check this chessboard kind of icon, then only the transparency will show up. Else, it won't. So make sure this is checked. Okay, now that we have line weight and transparency, let's go to this print option again. DWG to PDF and all these things are already set, monochrome and whatnot. So plot transparency and plot line weight, right? These two are checked. Let's click the preview. And this is how your drawing is going to look like, right? This area. So you can now compare it very easily. And as you can see, there is a difference, right? Here, if you compare it with this drawing, it looks transparent, right? And the line weight is, of course, here. But now let's uncheck this transparency and line weight, and let's check it. And as if it's not existent. So that's the difference. Even if your drawing has transparency and line weight, but you uncheck those options, they're not going to plot. In fact, this problem happens quite a lot. I mean, I've seen people just printing their drawing and they just say that, okay, we have line weight and transparency and still they're not getting it. Now, what could be the reason? Well, that's the reason, right? If you have these settings, make sure it's checked right there in the printing option. Okay, so with that, maybe click OK, and then it's going to print another one. All right, so that's about printing your drawing from model space. But here's the thing. Every time you go to this print option, the settings here, they just reset. In my case, they are not resetting. So why is this happening? I mean, is there something special that I've done? because every time I'm just going to this print option, it's just starting from my last settings. It's just not resetting it. Well, the reason is I have created a page setup, and you should also do that if you use same settings every time. Because if you don't do a page setup, let me show you an example. So here is another drawing, the standard Autodesk drawing. I'll go to print option. And yes, we'll discuss this batch plot option also, don't worry. I saw a question about that, so we'll discuss it. But here for now, I'll just plot one paper. So DWG to PDF, send to the plot, maybe NCA and window. Let's just make it, I think that's just sufficient. And yeah, so let's just click OK and test. All right, here's the print. Now let's go to this option. And okay, it looks like the option here for me has again stayed the same because I might have changed the settings for me, but it's not going to happen in your case all the time. So what you should do in order to just ensure that your settings, they are retained. So here's the thing. In your model space, maybe I'll just go back to the main drawing. In your model space, if you right click here and then go to page setup manager and select modify or just click a new one, now that will let you create a page setup that stays the same. So this is what I would recommend, that you just set the settings that you often use. For example, your printer, the paper size, plot area, if you can do that, and all the other settings. Just make these settings, click OK. Your drawing is not going to plot when you do that. Rather, it will save its setting in the print option. And then next time when you go to print option, it will automatically start from those settings. Okay, so that you don't have to do it from scratch every single time. And that's about printing from model space. Now we'll talk about printing from layout. Before I do that, let's take a few questions and then we'll go back to our drawing. Okay, so I have the last question here, how to edit ZWCAD drawing in AutoCAD. Well, you can directly edit the drawings made with ZWCAD. Drawings made with ZWCAD will just show a warning when you open it in AutoCAD that it's not created with default Autodesk program, but you can ignore it. Okay, and after that, it should work as if it was a simple AutoCAD drawing. So explode is not required as long as it's not a block. If it's a block or an XREF, then only maybe explode is required, else not. Okay, now how do we publish multi layouts with no line weights? I'll get to that. Okay, and then Edward has a question. Is there a way to have multiple co-workers access the same custom CTB plot styles? Well, yes. So here's the thing. The CTB and STB files, they are saved in a location, right? So you can save your custom CTB files in that location. If you are on a network drive, I mean, if you use a network location, then make sure that you're saving there, and then people can access it from that location. Or you can just go to options, right click and options, go to files, and in the project file search path, this one, add a location here. And in this location, you can save your CTB or STB files. You have to just browse it to just to specify a location and then save it here. So everything that you save here in the project file search path, AutoCAD will actually look for these files first. I mean, there are several things that you can save here. But I would recommend that you just save your file in the default CTB and STB folder. And once again, this is explained in complete detail in our printing and plotting course. Let me maybe add the link for that course here. And by the time it's opening, let me take the few more questions. Okay, now why the plot and page setup manager look the same? Well, the difference, I mean, the similarity is because they're exactly the same thing. What you see here is exactly what you'll see in the page setup, because page setup is essentially a setting that you're doing in the printing window, but that window, that setting will be saved. So that's the only difference. It's the same thing, because it's just allowing you to save the settings so that you don't have to repeat it all the time. So that's the reason why it's the same thing. Okay, so here is the printing and plotting course. So here, once again, I'm sharing its link here in the chat area. This course has actually everything related to CTV, STV files, saving it, and all the things that you need about it. Okay, I have so many questions, so I think I'll take those questions once again after finishing up the layout thing as well. So maybe let's go back to layout and then we'll take a few more questions. So if you want to plot your drawing from model space, totally fine. There is no problem in that. You can plot it from model space. But if you want to plot your drawing from layout, then you need to first switch to layout tab, just like this. Now, when should you plot with layout and when with model space? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say we have a really big drawing of a floor plan. And in that floor plan, we have the plumbing drawing, the electrical drawing, we have HVAC, and so many other things. Now, all the things of that project are essentially made in the model space. So we have made the simple floor plan, then maybe we made a copy, and let's for a moment pretend that this copy is electrical uh, plan of that house. And then we have another copy, which is the HVAC part, and then another copy, um, again, for plumbing and for other things, for structural diagrams and all. So all the details you can just make in model space, and then in layout, you can create specific layouts for a specific part of the drawing. For example, you can right click on layout, you can rename, and you can just call it floor plan. Then you can go to layout 2, and you can right click and you can just rename it, and let's just call it electrical. Okay. And so on. You can just add as many layouts as you want, and you can just name it whatever you want. So now, after that, all you have to do is just add the specific part of the drawing in its respective layout. So in this case, it just looks all the same. So maybe here, I'll just make a few changes here. Let's just delete all these blocks. Okay, so that's one thing. And maybe here I'll just delete everything from inside. So just the walls. Okay. Okay, so here we are. I think that's sufficient. You can obviously see the difference between these three plans now. So we have the three drawings. Now I'll go to floor plan. And in the floor plan, I want to add only this part of the drawing. Okay, so let's go to floor plan. And when you switch to layout, AutoCAD will automatically show you this layout tab. Now this tab will only show up as long as you're in the layout. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'll delete this layout window. And now let's right click here, floor plan. And here you can go to page setup manager, or you can simply go to page setup here and then set the page. So this step is important because right now we don't know what the paper size is, what scale we are working on, and other things, which we just need to set up first. So this layout is actually a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get kind of editor. Okay. So here, think of this as your paper, actual sheet of paper, and this dotted line is the print margin. So anything outside this margin won't show up on your print. So just make sure that your drawing is inside this print margin if you want to show it on your prints. So here, I'm just going to go to this page setup, select modify, and again, it's the same thing, but it's not printing your drawing, rather it's just making the settings here. So I'll select DWG to PDF. Let's select NCA again this time. layout is selected, I'll just select layout here. Don't select any other option, because if you select layout, AutoCAD will plot everything that is in the layout. And right here, center the plot is automatically unchecked, grayed out. That's the way it should be, because it will automatically just print everything in the paper, and it's your responsibility to center it, not and AutoCAD won't do anything here. Also here, the scale should be set to 1:1. In the previous example, I checked the fit to paper option in model space, but now the fit to paper option is just grayed out. You can select any other scale from this list, but I'd recommend that you set a scale of 1:1. The reason is simple. We will create some viewports. I'll show you what that is. And we set the scale inside the viewports, okay? So the scale is 1:1, okay? And we'll leave the rest of the options. Maybe I'll just make sure monochrome is selected, okay? And then okay, and close. Layout has changed. The margin has changed. And now let's just make our drawing again here. But we don't need to make it from scratch. Rather, just go to layout viewports, click on rectangular, and make a box. And automatically it will show everything from your model space as soon as you make it. But we don't need everything. We just need this one, first plan. So double click inside this, zoom in, and just fit your drawing exactly the way you want here. I think this is just sufficient. I'll double click outside, then click the border, and I'll move it like so. You can fit it, and there we are. That's our first view, the model space that we created. Now, here we have the floor plan, and I left some room here and here for our title block and the information and the tables and things like that. So this thing is called viewport. It's kind of like a portal through which you can see the objects of model space. Okay. And this viewport has a pretty random scale right now. You can set a proper scale, and I would recommend that you do that. Maybe I'll start with 1:50 equals to 1. So, well, no, it's very big. Actually, I think 170 should be good, but I don't have that scale. I have either 1:100 or 1:50. I don't have anything in between those two numbers. So we can actually add a scale quite easily. And we can do that using custom option, but I'm not going to go to that option. Rather, I'll use the imperial value, because we are using inches here. We are not using metric, so that's just a proper metric scale. So let's just use maybe 1/4 of an inch equals to 1 feet, which is approximately this size. Then maybe 1/8. No, that's very small actually. 3/16. That's about right. Okay, so I'll use this scale. I'll double click to activate this. I'll fit this thing, double click outside, and then maybe move it out. And here we are. Okay. Now, this viewport has a proper scale, which is 3/16 of an inch equals to 1 feet, which means 3/16 on this paper, 3/16 of an inch on this paper is equal to 1 feet on actual site. So if you use a scale or a ruler to measure the distance here, and if it's 3/16, and then you use the same distance on the actual site on the ground, if you measure it, that should be equal to 1 feet. That's what this scale actually means. So we've done it. Now this is our floor plan. And that's the reason why we don't set any scale in page setup. If you go to page setup, there was an option of 1:1. We don't change the scale here because we change the scale for every viewport right here. Okay, that's why we leave it at 1:1. Now let's go to electrical, and we do the same here. So I'll go to page setup, modify, DWG PDF, and yeah, the same setting here also, layout 1:1 and monochrome, and okay, and close. Rectangular, and maybe let's just make one more. This one, I'll just put it here, and let's select the scale of 1/16 equals to 1 feet. 1/8. All right. You know what? Not 1/8 actually. 3/16, because it's obviously the same size. So yeah, the same scale will make sense. So here we go. All right, so done. So in a single drawing, essentially in this drawing, we managed to add two different viewports, floor plan, then electrical drawing, maybe you can add more and add multiple sheets. So what we are doing here is we are creating several sheets in our drawing, and all the sheets are showing a specific part of the drawing. And that's something you should do for larger projects. Yeah, I mean, again, this is not a mandatory thing. Not that many people do that, or it's not kind of a thing that you should always do. Always go with the best practices that your company is following, but this is just something that you should do to make things easier and much more manageable. So if you are using it, it's rather good that you should go with this layout option, because every time if you want to plot something from this, well, you just have to make a window and then plot the separate things, which is not recommended. And here you have everything set properly. You can add title block, you can add lots of other things here. So it's always recommended to go with this method. Okay, now we have several sheets. Okay, we have model, floor plan, and electrical. If you want to print your drawing like this, then you actually need three PDFs, okay, for all the three views. Or you can publish your drawing, and publishing will essentially print all the three sheets into one PDF. Let's see how we can do that. Okay, but before we do that, is this thing clear so far? Any question? And by the time you're answering it, let me take a few more questions. So is there a way to publish PDF in black and white for a drawing containing true RGB colors? Well, yes, you can definitely just use the plot style and monochrome, select monochrome. So in all the layouts and also in model space, make sure that you select, you do the page setup, and in page setup, select here in the model space, go to page setup, modify, make sure monochrome is selected, and do the same for layouts, and that should do the trick. Um, okay, about this outer line, well, it's very easy. You can actually create a layer. There are so many here, but just create a new layer. Let's call it VP, short for viewport, and maybe just freeze this or just make it off. I'll just freeze this layer, VP, and then select this boundary, go to this drop down and put it on VP layer. This prompt will show up, just ignore it and done. So that boundary is gone. Okay, yes, this I agree that this session is a bit fast than my usual sessions. For those of you who are joining me for the very first time, this is slightly faster than the way I'm used to be doing things. But again, as I mentioned, this is just an experimental session for me, because I don't do sessions like this. In fact, this is the first session that I'm streaming across the web on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as on the SourceCAD website. So consider this as something that we'll use for feedback or to improve the next sessions, right? But yeah, uh, if you feel like I have missed, I mean, many things, let me know, and maybe we'll repeat this session sometime in the future, right? All right. So that's that's a good comment, Yasmin. I'm glad I did that, and thanks, Jenny. Yeah, thanks. I'm really glad that it's clear, even though the pace is a bit faster for you. Yes, everything that I'm discussing is already in our class, in our courses. So yes, it is covered. All right. So one more question I'll take, and then I'll go to the next topic, which is how can you tell if a drawing file hasn't been tampered with in terms of scaling? Well, if the scale is changed, you'll see that in here. In the, I mean, if you double click this, you're going to see the scale here, right? So if it's tempered, it's going to show up here. If it's tempered in a way that, I mean, maybe let me just activate the viewport first. So if the scale is tempered and it's not set properly, then it will look something like this. Okay, a random number will show up here. But if the scale has been set properly, it will show a proper number like this. Okay, so that's how you can check. Just click the boundary, see here the scale, and that will show if the scale is correct or not. It has been set properly or not. The difference between plot and publish is very obvious. When you plot your drawing, it plots just one sheet. And now we're talking about publish. So publish will just publish several sheets at once. By the way, that was a question from Vineet. So let's now talk about publish. So you can go to this application button and print and batch plot. Now you might be wondering, we do have a publish option. Why we are not using that and we are just talking about publish? I mean, this is a little confusing here, the terminology here only. The publish option is here. Batch plot is actually called publish. In fact, if you use the command publish, publish, that's going to open the batch plot option, okay, or the publish option. So yeah, that's the option you should go with. So when you start this option, we have a few options here. So let's just set it up. If you have a sheet list, you can import it, or you can just select it from the list if you have it in your drawing. Now, publish to option will show the formats in which you can publish your drawing. So, DWFX or PDF, I'll select PDF. About that, okay, I'll take one more question from Vineet here. Can we set uniform margin with page setup? Well, yes, you can do that. Again, I won't recommend it, but you can definitely do it. Maybe let me just do that quickly just to show you where that thing is. So if you go to, let's say, page setup manager, modify, and select a plotter, then the page setup, the margin is actually in the plotter properties. Go to properties, and right here you have everything related to your plotter, including the plotter margin. Not just that, you can even define a high resolution paper, which is not available in this list. Once again, I have discussed all these things, the custom properties, the high resolution paper thing. In fact, I have discussed it in a video as well on our channel, SourceCAD. And of course, it is available in the printing and plotting course. So yeah, you can do that. Now, going back to the publish option here, select the format, which is PDF in my case. And in the PDF option, we have some presets. Well, essentially, these presets are going to plot your drawing in different qualities. So smallest file, small file size, low quality, well and mobile. Again, it's very small file size, low quality, high quality, and these just quality presets. But if you don't want to, I mean, think about these things, then just select DWG to PDF, just the general document. Okay, now there are several options here. If you click on publish options, there are some options that you can select. Maybe we'll look at these options. So let's see. Now the DPI value is simply dots per inch value, and you can select a different DPI value for vector images and raster images. Now, for now, since we are making our drawing in AutoCAD, the vector quality will affect our drawing. If you have added an XREF, external reference, or an image in your drawing, then changing this will affect those things, only the external references or the images. Okay, so if you have made a drawing just in AutoCAD or you've added XREFs that are just part of AutoCAD drawing, then this value will change. The quality base won't do a thing. So you can increase or decrease this value to change the DPI value. Then we have the merge control. And if you change it, you're going to see the difference here. It's essentially the way the colors are going to behave at the point of merge. For example, the point where the red and green, they're just merging, I mean, like this. So what do you want to see at the point of merge, the point where these two are matching? Okay, how do you want it to look like? That's what it's going to change here. And you can see the preview here. Now, these are the things that you can include or exclude from a PDF. For example, if you want to include layer, check this. Want to include links, link to web pages, add this, or link to a folder location. If you want to create bookmarks, bookmarks are created on the left side. They're kind of like chapters. If you want to do that, well, check this. And this one, capture font used in the drawing. Now, this option is useful if you are using a font which is not available in AutoCAD or which is not available in your operating system. For example, Arial, Times New Roman. I mean, these are simple fonts available in operating system. Then we have TXT, Simplex. These are the fonts available in AutoCAD. But what if you have downloaded a font from Google, okay, and you're using it in your PC, but no one else has it? Okay, in that case, you can click on Capture Fonts, and AutoCAD will pull that font file, put it in the Publish folder, okay? Or it will just pull it directly, it will just embed it in the PDF, so the font will look proper. If you don't check this option, AutoCAD will replace that font with a default font like Arial or Times New Roman, something like that. So if you are using a custom font, make sure this is checked. Or as an alternative, you can click this option, Convert All Text to Geometry. When you do that, AutoCAD won't recognize text. I mean, not AutoCAD, PDF won't recognize text. When you print your drawing and then select the text, it won't select text. It will just show it as lines, okay? That's what convert all text to geometry is. It's also helpful if you want to kind of preserve data in your drawing. If you don't want anyone to copy the data, then you can check this option. I'll only keep this one checked and click OK. Okay, so this is kind of sufficient. Now, if you have created some page setups for these drawings, you can click here and select the page setup. I have not, so I'll just leave it with the default options and click on Publish. Specify location, and I'll call it Publish and select. And do you want to save the list? Well, no, I don't want to. It's now going to publish it. An animation will show up here that it's publishing. And once done, it's going to show this. Okay, the drawing is published. Here is the published one. And here it is. So what do we have here? Model space. Scroll down and we have the first layout and the third layout. So in just one single sheet of paper, we have all the three. Actually, you can see here, that's page number 3. And then we have, we have 3 pages. That was page number 1. And then we have page number 2 and then page number 3. Okay. So that's that. Also, if you click here, that's going to show the layer. Now, remember the settings, we check the layer option. That's why we have all the layers here. So whatever you check, it's going to show all the things. We have these 3 sheets here. So you can just switch between these 3 sheets. By the way, this is bookmark. So very easy way of switching between the different sheets just using bookmark. So all these options are quite handy and you can select which one you want to export, which one you don't. Okay. All right. Once again, so far, is everything clear? Oh, yes, the flattened text. That was, again, a question from Vineet. The flattened text option was exactly just that. The last checkbox, remember in the publish option, convert text into geometry. That's what you can select to flatten the text. Okay. Then we have another question from Edward. Is there a way to change the default paper layout setting? So any layout created in the future use desired default settings. You can just copy your existing layout. So rather than clicking on the plus icon, you can just make a copy of your existing layout, rename it, and then it's just going to use the same settings. All right, let me take a few more questions from here. By the way, I can see that several of you are joining me from YouTube and LinkedIn. So you might be new to this. So I would like to share this course with you. Again, a completely free one. And this is really good if you are just starting out with AutoCAD. So if you are new, just making the well, the first few drawings and you are not that experienced, this is the course that you should go for. And as I mentioned, it's just free, completely free. Here, this one. All right. Now, before we wrap it up, what about between drawings? So, okay, what about between drawings? Now, that's a good question. Actually, you know what? I think you can do that using a Design Center. Design Center has a pretty cool thing here. Let me show you what that is. So Control 2, if you press and hold Control and then use 2 key, that's going to open Design Center. Okay. Here, Design Center, if you click on Home, that's going to look like this. Now click on Open and select any drawing file. And inside this drawing file, you're going to see all the things that it contains, including layouts. There's a layout one, layout two. You can just drag it and drop it in your drawing, and that's going to import that. Once it is imported, it has essentially imported all the settings, and you can now again copy the layouts, all its settings will be copied. So yes, you can do that. And not just that, you can even copy other things of that drawing. So if I double click here, if I double click layers, it's going to show all the layers. You can just drag and drop a layer. You can drag and drop line type style. You can drag and drop dimension style, text style, and things like that. Okay, everything can be copied. There could be I mean, a lot of reason why XREFs were not plotting when you were plotting it. I would say that just check this option first. Are you, I mean, if you are plotting it from layout, then make sure layout is selected here. And if you are plotting it from this option, then make sure that window is checked. And then that window includes the part of the XREF. So that could be the main reason. Other than that, only looking at the drawing will reveal the actual problem if that's not working. By the way, that was an answer to Yasmin's question. And I'm open to questions now. So feel free to share your questions. And also, this is the time that I would like to take to ask you about a few things. So, well, the first is obviously where you are joining me from. I should have asked this question in the beginning of the session, but yeah, just type in your country here in the chat box. And yes, I have shared already the link of Essential course. So sign up for that free course if you haven't yet done it. And this is just for the non-subscribers here. To everyone who are already a subscriber, you can ignore this. But if you are not, well, this is a chance to get started for free. All right, Jenny has joined us from US, Bahrain. All right. Just type in your country, and in the meantime, I'm taking the questions again. Okay, so line type and its global scale factor. So that's LT scale command for that. So you can use LT scale just to set its global scale. Okay, that was, by the way, an answer to Anand's question, Anand Raj. Great. So we have from Noida, India, US, Florida, again, US Virgin Islands. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And now, before I wrap this session up, this was, by the way, a very small session. We are very much known for doing long sessions, and Jenny and Edward and other people who are actually joining me here, they know that our sessions are usually at least 2 hours long. This is probably the smallest session that we did. And the reason is, of course, because this is kind of like a trial session that I'm doing with the streaming platform. Um, so that's why it's small. Now I'd like to know which session, which topic you want me to do next. So is it XREF? Because I've seen a lot of questions from XREF. So external references of AutoCAD, or is it some other topic that you would like me to include? Again, let me know in the chat box. And in the meantime, I'm stopping the screen share so that you can see this clearly. Yeah. So I have a question. How can you reach me for Q&A? Well, when you become a SourceCAD free member or a paying member, you can directly reach out to us in the Q&A section. So every video, every course video has a Q&A section right underneath it. You can ask your questions, and me or our instructors will answer the question directly. We also have a private community only for SourceCAD members. You can join that community, and then you can ask your questions directly, as many questions as you like, no matter how specific that is. So yeah, that's definitely a good thing that you can do. Then we have a question from Satya Prakash. I have multiple die parts drawing in the same drawing. How can I batch plot all the drawings? So that is already covered. You can use publish option to do that. Um, okay, I think I've answered most of these questions. Okay, let's go to this one. So Vineet, I'm actually from India, and right now I'm in Jamshedpur, a small city in India. It's a tier 3 city in India. Yeah. Okay, when will title blocks and projects, multiple drawings will be covered? I had plans of covering it in this session, title blocks, but because the session is a smaller, I will most likely cover it in the next session. So since you have already mentioned XREF, I think I'll be covering a mix of several topics in AutoCAD, including creating title block. And I think I should cover something about sheet set as well. Sheet set is a pretty good topic that yeah, I mean that kind of people feel like it's an advanced topic, but I would like to cover that as well. And covering title block with sheet set will make a lot more sense because I'll not only show you the ways of adding title block from internet, but also making it right from scratch using very intelligent methods. So yeah, I think that will be the next session where I'll cover it. Okay, how to learn CAD as a beginner. I have added a roadmap that I followed to learn it. I think you'll find it interesting. So that roadmap again is on the channel, YouTube channel. So if you have subscribed to it, look for the video and just go to our video list and search for the roadmap and you'll find it. Yeah. Okay, so I'll consider this topic as done for the next session. For the next session, we are doing title blocks with sheet set. Okay. We'll be discussing about making sheet set. If you know about it, good. If not, let me tell you what that thing is. Sheet set is essentially the way of managing your drawings. So if you have several sheets in your drawings, then you can manage it using sheet set. And sheet set will make full use of dynamic block, attributes, fields, um, and including extracting data. So yeah, we will use it. All these things. So yes, but the next live session, I mean, this was a test session for everyone, but most likely the next live session will be once again a completely private session. So that will be for the members only thing. So if you are a subscribed member, definitely you will be notified when it goes live, and most likely it will go live next week. So yeah, we have lots and lots of topics to cover. So yeah, I'm looking forward to XF as well, maybe in the follow-up week. Okay. Now, this question about project manager in AutoCAD Electrical, I'm not sure because that's not my area of expertise. It's covered by Scott Onstott. So if you want answer to this question, maybe just send it in the community or the Q&A area and I'll forward it to the instructor. That was an answer to Edward's question. Yeah. And attributes, extracting data, all these things, as I mentioned before, I'll be including it in the next session. And yeah, in the follow-up session, we'll add XREF. I mean, we'll have an XREF based session. Okay, print in AutoCAD and transfer to Excel. I'm not sure what that means, but you can take print in PDF. You can take it in DXF, PNG, JPEG. There are so many other formats that you can print your drawing in. Also, if you want to import a table from Excel to AutoCAD, that's possible, or you can export an AutoCAD table into a CSV file, which is Excel file. But printing it in Excel, I haven't heard about that thing before, so I'm not sure what that question is. ISO standards. Well, ISO standard is just the paper size. ISO A0, A1, A2, A3, A4. So if you want to select the paper sizes, well, by the way, you can do that. And also, if you are wondering, well, see, this is just a paper. Okay, this is ISO A4 paper. Just a thing that I want to well mention because since we are discussing ISO, so this paper has a very kind of peculiar relationship with Root 2. I think if you have seen my video about it, you know it. But if not, then if you measure the length of this paper, ISO paper, and its width, then divide the two numbers. Okay. By the way, this is 297 mm, this is 210 mm. Divided, the number you are going to get is 1.414, which is the square root of 2. Now fold that paper in half from the longer side. Now divide the length with the width. You're going to get 1.414, again root 2. Fold it in half. Once again, you're going to get 1.414. So that's the relationship between paper sizes. And also, this is ISO A4. This one is A5, A6, and so on. And you got the idea, right? So A0 is the largest paper, A0, fold it in half, that's A1, fold it in half, A2, A3, A4, and so on. So just a thing that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so with that, I think we are ready to wrap up this session. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining this session. In the next one, I'll be discussing everything about sheet set, title blocks. And if you want to join the session, make sure you sign up for SourceCAD. Once again, maybe let me share a quick link with you. So SourceCAD is definitely a premium option, signing up for the SourceCAD, and there are several tiers that you can select from. But this is the most flexible option. You can start with a monthly subscription, and you can cancel it anytime you want. With the monthly subscription, you get access to all the courses, every single course. And by the way, we are releasing new courses almost every single month. So yeah, you will get access to that as well. And then in the follow-up sessions, I'll make announcements in the SourceCAD community. You'll get to know about the follow-up sessions that are coming up. So yeah, I'll see you then. Thanks, Jenny, and thanks everyone. Thanks, Anand, Yashir, Arturo, and I have a food lover here also. I don't know the name, just the name of your tag here. So yeah, Arutek, Jagdish, Vineet, LD Smith, and Ali Nazi, Yasmin. And I'm really sorry if I missed your name. And thank you, everyone, for joining the session. And I'll see you in the next one, please. Yeah, okay, SketchUp, please. Okay, sure. I'll just write it down. I'm not promising this, but I'll write it down and I'll announce it in the community when we have dates for the SketchUp available. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you soon in the next one. Take care.